This is Møller Nielsen from Java Code Geeks, and I'm going to talk about cybersecurity. If you're interested in cybersecurity and if you want to be able to protect yourself a bit better, then this video is something for you. Now, complementary to this video, there will be related articles and links in the description below. Also, feel free to visit our website at javacodegeeks.com, where you will find programming-related material. Now, please take the time to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when we have more stuff coming up. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. So, what is cybersecurity and what is a cyber attack? Let us talk about the most normal types of cyber attack, and then let us also talk about how we can actually prevent these attacks from actually being effectuated. So first of all, a cyber attack is an attempt to steal, edit, delete, or disable information. So it can steal our information, like our credit card information, if it's if the motives are financial. The motives can also be political. It can also be like a cyber warfare, where you just want to attack and target the enemy's infrastructure. Like there could be the military also, that you want to target the enemy's military and actually stop airplanes from taking off. Everything right now is connected to a computer, and everything is digitized, and that means that everything has the risk of actually being attacked in cyberspace or being attacked by different kind of malicious approaches. So what can we do to avoid being attacked? There's of course our behavior. We can have strong passwords. We can have a password manager, and we can avoid clicking external unknown links. So we suddenly appear or we suddenly download or execute software that we don't know. Then we also have some technical things that we can do to avoid being attacked, and those are, for instance, installing a firewall. A firewall is something that blocks communication that is not intended for the network that we sit on. And then we also have VPNs. A VPN will encrypt your communication with the outside world, so that is also a good thing. And in general, you can encrypt communication. Always only go to websites that uses HTTPS. Because that is then you know that the communication is encrypted, but you cannot be completely safe anyway. But that is what we will go through right here. So first of all, there's something called a malware attack, and what is that? Malware stands for malicious software. So it's a combination combination of malicious and software. So this is when you install a piece of software. It seems harmless, and it actually usually does what it says that it does. Like it could be maybe a conversion between XML and YAML, or XML and JSON, or something like that. Or it could also be something you can use to create a spreadsheet with. And then it just have a hidden agenda. So that means that there's a hidden part of the software that might maybe will start mining bitcoins and use your CPU when you're not using it yourself. That has been a big problem the last years, where suddenly your computer, when you think it's doing nothing, then it actually starts using the CPU and also the GPU, the graphical processing unit, and then it starts mining Bitcoin, not for you, but for whoever actually created this malware. Another thing this malware can do is they can actually log everything you type. That means that it will actually get all of your information. It will get your passwords. It will get all of your personal informations, and then of course it can use that. And regarding your personal information, this also means that it can actually get your contacts, the people that you know, and then those people will also be targeted for this attack. Some of the malwares are quite sneaky. Then they will actually have a dwelling period where they don't do anything. They will only actually do whatever they're supposed to do. If they promised you that they can help you create a cool spreadsheet, then they will just continue providing that service. But then at some point, it actually starts with an attack. Whenever the malware thinks that now it's ready, it will send the credit card information that you might have typed on one page. It will actually send that to whoever created this malware. It will start sending messages to your friends and family, and to everything to everybody you have inside your contact book. So it can be quite extensive what is actually going on with this malware attack. And this is what you can do about this malware attacks is actually you can install an antivirus program, and actually most operating systems nowadays, they actually have some kind of protection. Like Windows, it has Defender, and Mac OS also have a built-in system that will actually check for malware. And many of the operating systems like Windows and Mac OS, they actually try to avoid you installing external programs. So will actually you actually have to do something deliberate when you install something. Then you will actually get a pop-up. Are you sure you want to install this program, because it has not it is not known by, for instance, Microsoft or by Apple. Yeah. So that is malware, and of course, what we can do is we should never execute any install any programs where we don't know exactly what is going on here, and who's a provider of this. And the way that we are sometimes getting tricked is that we can get a piece of software that does something that the expensive software do, but not for a much cheaper price. It could be it could be like an Office suite. It could also be the Adobe suite that now has been provided through another program with another program name, like something else suite. And of course we get tempted because we think that we can save a lot of money by using these pieces of programs. It can also be that you actually one of the people that you have on your contact list, they have actually been exposed to this malware attack, and then suddenly you get an email from them with a link to this malware also. So this means that you actually get an email from someone that you trust, and where you usually only get valid and good software from and good links from, and then suddenly you get this malware link, and then of course you are less likely to be suspicious, and then you click that link and then you install the software, and then you also have that malware installed on your computer. So it can be quite difficult sometimes, and you always need to have your guards up. That is that is the short story right here. Also for messages and links from people that you actually know. Sometimes in the emails you can actually see that the link is not what it's supposed to be. So you have one link that has a text inside your emails, and then you actually when you go, if you right click that link, then you can actually see that where it actually tries to direct you is someplace else than you would actually expect it to lead you. Then we have the ransomware. And that is actually a subcategory of the malware. That is a special type of malware that will actually encrypt all of the files on all of the servers on your network. It will just start encrypting. It will just start encrypt all of your data, one file at a time, one folder at a time, and then when it's done, then it will say at some point, then it will say, hey, you need to send me 100 bitcoins to this account if you want to get the key to decrypt all of these files and all of these folders, so you can actually use your files and folders again. And a lot of times, if it's a big company that has been exposed to ransomware, then sometimes these companies, they actually choose to pay, because it's much cheaper for the companies to actually pay these 100 bitcoins or 10 bitcoins or whatever the ransom is about, and then avoid and then getting this getting the encrypted password, and then get the password for the encrypted files, and then get their business up and running as fast as possible. Or else they might have to. Some businesses might have been lacking some backups that they thought they were actually taking backup every day of something, and then maybe they only had a backup every week of something. So then it's really critical data that they are losing if they don't unlock these encrypted files. Yeah, so this is a very bad version of the type of malware, and it has been very popular and common the last years. And it's also something that not all companies actually talk about, because it could be it could be that people then lose they will lose faith in them. They will lose they will not think that they actually handle the data in a proper way. So some companies actually keep this information a secret, and they will not even talk about that they have been attacked. And this is not good, because then we of course we cannot stop the people that are actually behind these attacks. But that's ransomware. And then we have something called phishing. Phishing is when you scrape a page. Usually it's a bank. You scrape the whole page, and then you create another page that looks like the bank, for instance, or financial institute, or it could be a credit card provider or something like that. And then the phishing, the people behind the phishing attack, they actually they set up a site that looks exactly like the site that they want to attack. And what they then do is that, for instance, we have this page right here. This is my page that I have right here, Code Investigator. Then they would actually scrape all of this HTML and JavaScript that is lying behind this page right here, and then they will buy a domain that looks like this. So instead of codeinvestigator.com, maybe they will buy .it or .now, .nu, because maybe I did not get those domains. Or they could also get a country-specific one, like DK for Denmark, maybe, or SE for Sweden, or something like that. And then they will try to direct people to that page instead. And then when people go and they think they're actually checking out their bank statement, then the traffic could still be directed actually to the real page, but of course now the person in the middle, this phishing, the phisher, actually has all of your passwords and all of your logins and all that, of course, and then that can be then used to take your money, for instance. And if you're when you're logged on to your web bank, then of course it can transfer the money to some external account, of course. It can also be used in a lot of other ways. It can steal your private information. It can also it can execute whatever kind of service that you wanted to run. Then it could, of course, run that on your behalf and do something that is not in your interest, of course. That is phishing, when you scrape a page, and then you then you usually have a domain that looks almost like the real domain. And there are two ways actually to access these phishing pages. Sometimes when you make a typo, then you end up on these phishing pages. Sometimes you could actually get a mail, or maybe you will get a message from it could be Twitter or one of the social medias, Discord, or any of the social medias. Then you will get a link, and then you try out that link, and then you can see that looks fine, right? And it looks like the real deal, but it's not. So always be very aware of the sites that are there. And also when you see something, when you see a page that has been phished, then of course you need to report it to your local authorities. If you don't know who to report it to, then just call the police, and then they will tell you where to actually report this malicious web page. It is not always that something can be done about it right away, but at least then the authorities are aware of it, and then they can at least warn other people about it. Then we have the man-in-the-middle attack, and that is actually one of the attacks that are used in a lot of movies. If you have seen the movie Silicon Valley, that's actually one of the ways that they actually get people to install a special version of an app that contains this group of people's code. So so they have more disk space for their company. So let us just see what actually happens right here. So here's you, and you have some kind of device, and your device connects to a Wi-Fi, maybe. So it connects to a Wi-Fi, so this is a Wi-Fi. And this is where the man-in-the-middle attack actually comes in, because the man in the middle will actually install his or her own Wi-Fi router or gateway right here. And then this Wi-Fi and gateway right here will actually insert and have its own DNS lookup also. So that means that whenever you go to most pages, then you will actually be guided to the real page. So this is a real page maybe. So everything looks fine. But then sometimes when you go to, this could be maybe your bank again, then instead of going to the real page, which we have all of the real pages out here, then instead of going to this IP address that is here, then you will actually get the then you can actually get, first of all, you can get a malicious page. That is one version, or you will actually just get, again, still you will get the real page, but because there's a man in the middle, then all of your information are being stored. So this means that all of your information, or everything that you try to send to the real page will actually be stored right here. That is one situation. So a man in the middle attack means that the man in the middle can listen to everything that you're doing, and it can also decide where to route your traffic. So it can route your traffic to malicious pages instead of to the real pages. So that also means that when you are obtaining a session cookie, when you are a session ID from the real page, then it might have gone through this malicious page right here, and now this malicious page actually has your session, your token, and then it can go in and do whatever it wants to on your behalf afterwards. And so that is not good. The things that you can do against man-in-the-middle attack is never to connect to public Wi-Fi, for instance. It can also sometimes be done actually with regular cellular data masts. Sometimes a mast is just put up that is closer to you than the real mast. So this is a cellular mast. Again, this is from the middle of man in the middle to perform a man in the middle attack, and it runs exactly the same with the same principles as if it was a Wi-Fi. Your phone usually connects to the to the mast with the best signal, and that is usually the one that is closest to you. So if someone places a mast next to where you live, then you will actually connect to that one instead, and then again the traffic can be routed. Many times you will actually get the real page. A lot of times you will get the real pages, but then sometimes when you go to your bank or something like that, then it will route you to a malicious page. And on top of that, you can actually store all of your data. When these masks are set up, then they can also get your SMS messages, so your text messages. So if you are writing clear text messages, then they will also pick that up. You can get a bit around this by using something called a VPN, and also by encrypting your data. So this means that if you use some kind of there's a lot of these communication apps nowadays where they actually encrypt the encrypt information, and then it's sent to another person, and then this other person gets the message, and then it will then be decrypted over here. So then that means that if there's a man in the middle, then he or she will only see the encrypted version and cannot exploit and use that data. And the same with the VPN; it can also be encrypted. Then you actually connect it to another server, which is right here, a VPN server here, right here, and then again, then the data is encrypted. But it is always risky when you are through a man in the middle. Then you don't know if your information, where your communication actually ends up. You could actually also be tricked with VPN. So you go to a malicious VPN site like that. So the way to avoid that, try not to use public Wi-Fi. That is one thing, and the other one is the other one with the cellular data and the mast. That is actually quite difficult to do something about. There are some of the consumer masses that some of the what do you call it, when you show off all of the gadgets and technology, then sometimes some of the security companies, they actually bring their own mask just to show how easy it is to get everybody's text messages, and also how easy it is to direct to a malicious page. and how easy it is actually to get the private information also. So, but this is a man-in-the-middle attack that works like that. Another thing is only go to web pages that's HTTPS. That was true SSL. Secure socket layer. Yes, we have it right there. And then we have the password attack. The password attack is also very common. And this is one of the most common attacks, actually. That is when people, they are deciding what password they should have, then not everybody has a password manager. Then of course, they choose something they can remember. And maybe they got a cat in 2023. And then just like here, this is my Docker Compose file to start up my Postgres database. Then I have set this password right here to cat 2023. And of course, this is quite easy to guess, and it's quite easy to hack this password. First of all, it's short. So if you have a program that can brute force the password, then of course that then it will not take long for the brute password to actually get to CAT and then 2023. Yeah, so that is a password attack. That is when you try to guess the password from personal information. It could also be that you got a new car and then you have used that car as part of your password. So you should actually never use real words in your password. As your password, you should just use a password manager. Google has one. Dashlane is also a popular one. There's also something called KeyPass, LastPass, or Keys. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Actually, all of the browsers, most browsers have their own password manager. I know Microsoft has one, and Google has also one, and of course, Mac, iOS or Mac also has one in their browser. So. This is the list of the most used passwords. So there are these tools that actually tries to guess the password, and of course the first password they actually try is actually the passwords on this list right here, right? So this is from 2021. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. QWERTY, that's because they set close to each other on the keyboard. If you look in the top left corner of your keyboard, then you can see that it says QWERTY password. It's also something that's still used. So this is 2021. The list it changes a bit over time, and if you're interested, then you can see it. If you look it up on Wikipedia, then you can see since 2011 up to 2019. Then you can see that the most used password has actually changed. In 2012, the password actually lost to 2013. Then password lost to 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So all of these passwords right here, those are the ones that will be tried the first. Yeah. So the way to actually create a strong password is to have your password manager create one that contains numbers, special characters, upper and lower characters that doesn't make any sense. There should not be any words at all. And then you have your password manager to remember that password. And of course, you need to remember your password to your password manager. And that of course, should not be a difficult one. It still needs to be a complex one. And sometimes you also have two-factor authentication to your password manager. That's another thing you can do. Use two-factor authentication. Then you have to prove that it's you on your mobile phone. And then you also have to type in your password. It is much more secure than just having a password. And of course, never give your password to anyone. Do not put a post-it on your screen with your password, of course. That is also some normal mistakes to do. Or it was in the old days. I think people are a bit more aware of the importance of actually just having a secure password that is not shared by anyone. Yeah, so then we have some good practices. If you want to get some good practices, to protect yourself, then you should try to avoid clicking on external links. Always have your guards up. Only run company-approved software when you are working. Of course, sometimes it's very tempting to install this software that can solve this problem that you have at hand. Instead of doing that and trying to cut corners, then talk to your IT department and ask them, you have this problem, maybe you cannot open a PDF file or whatever. Then they will tell you, oh, it's because you need to order this piece of software and we can install it for you in 10 minutes or something like that, right? Then 10 minutes later, then you will have that software. What people usually do is then they install something that can actually handle the PDF file or edit the PDF file or whatever, and then they get malware on their computer. Also, the same with jokes. Do not when you are working, do not share jokes with external links in it at least. That can also be very difficult because of course it's very tempting to click those jokes. If you want to share jokes, then just share them as plain text with your colleagues. Do not use external links to go to funny pages, because that is actually also where malicious software sometimes is hidden, places where they know people will where they don't have their guards up, and joke pages, pages with jokes are one of those places, or places with memes also are also a place like that. And of course, avoid using public Wi-Fi. Use a VPN, then you encrypt the data, and you also go through an external server. This will also give you the benefit that you can actually you can pretend that you're in other countries, which if you are streaming movies, then sometimes you can get another selection of movies than the ones that you are used to watch. Some of the streaming services, they actually have it in the conditions that they will not that is not okay. You are actually breaching the rules, and they can actually stop your subscription if you do that. But I think a lot of them still accept that you use VPN. So then we have the impact of the cyber attack. Of course, it can be very, very expensive for companies. But also, when there are war times, then of course it can also be actually have an impact on the battlefield, because then there are actually examples where airplanes could not leave the ground because they were actually disabled by a backdoor that was put into the software that was delivered by the country to the other country. And then when there was when the war broke out, then they just went in and disabled all of the airplanes, so they could not take off. And of course, it can also hit infrastructure. So maybe it can actually, in worst case, it can actually create a meltdown, right, on power plants, on nuclear power plants. But it can also stop services from working, like banking service. We are all reliant on virtual money. So this means it could actually stop these services from working, and then no one can actually purchase anything. It can also be like healthcare that can also be hacked. That there have been examples of a pacemaker that can actually be hacked. Of course, the security on devices like that are very high, and usually they can only be connected to with a maybe through Bluetooth, for instance, or through something that is close to the device. So that's why it's very important. And the impact can be very severe, of course. So then we have something called advanced persistent threat, and that is a special threat where you have some kind of you have a specific purpose. So you have some kind of agenda. You have something that you want to achieve. And then you gain access to a system, but you don't do anything right away. You just dwell, and you just maybe you look around. You will just look at all the files. You will look at what's going on the server. You will maybe you will actually increase your access to the whole system. So you will just try to elevate your access to the system until at one point, then you take it all down if that is your purpose, or maybe you just steal all of the information if that is your purpose. That is called an advanced persistent threat, APT. That is when someone gets access to a system, and then they are stealthy in the beginning. They have an access, but they are not. You cannot see it anywhere. And this could be a government, for instance, or it could also be, of course, hacker groups, or so it can be a lot of organizations. So it can be private and also public organizations that suddenly have access to something that they are not supposed to have access to. denial of service and DDoS. This is very interesting because this is actually this is also very common actually, and usually this is also combined with the ransomware that we talked about in right here, because sometimes you will actually be blackmailed. First, you will get a warning, and that says that you will actually be you'll be DDoS. That means you will be spammed with requests. You will be overwhelmed with traffic, because usually you have one server. But let's say that a bot network of thousands of servers actually hit that one server with requests, and even though that these servers, they don't have access to whatever they try to do, just the fact that you have to actually send them back a 403, for instance, or 401, that they don't have access and they're not authenticated. That actually takes up up enough CPU power and enough power that at some point then you cannot handle all of the traffic. It takes up a lot of I/O. So that means that imagine that you have thousands of servers right here that just continues asking, please give me access, please give me access, and you have to say no all the time. Your system will have to say no. Then at some point when you have added enough servers, then you will have to, then the real users of your system, so this is the real user, he or she cannot get be handled, because you experience something called a denial of service, because this means that your program actually breaks down inside. Your server cannot handle more traffic, so then it actually stops actually treating and doing what it's supposed to do, and that can be very damaging for your business, of course. And that's why before this attack usually occurs, then you will get an email where you will be blackmailed to send a number of bitcoins to some kind of address, or else you will actually experience this DDoS attack. And that is actually why there are services out there that can actually block that, because then you can actually place a server in front of this one right here, and this server has some software that is made for this purpose. So that means that when it can see all of these bot starts hammering with these weird requests, then first of all, it can see on the location and on the IP range, and on the location from these servers, then it can actually see, these are probably, this is probably an attack, and then it can actually close off that range, so it will not, it can shield off that range, so these servers will no longer be treated and redirected to the real server. And that means that then the real user that has another IP address and is located in another place, that the real user will still be directed to the server. And one of these, I found an example, and the reason why I found this example is because that they have a free tier. There's something called Cloudflare. There are a lot of products that does this out there, but there's one that is called Cloudflare, and they have a free tier that can be used, and it's easy to set up. You will just say where the traffic should actually go, and you can also have Cloudflare to actually terminate your certificates. So that means that it will actually set up a certificate, and you will then lead your traffic to, and your domain name will actually point to Cloudflare, and inside Cloudflare there will be administrative tools to actually point your traffic to the real server. So yeah, let me just clear this one right here. So you have something like Cloudflare right here. Then you have all of the traffic that goes into Cloudflare right here, and then you have your DNS name right here, domain name right here, DNS. You have your domain name, submit.com. That will actually point to this Cloudflare right here. And then inside Cloudflare, you will say that you should direct the traffic to this server right here that you have right here. And then Cloudflare will actually take care of managing and blocking malicious requests. And it also, Cloudflare also picks up on history, on where does these DDoS attacks actually come from usually, where does all of the spam come from usually, and then it can actually block off this part right here, and it can actually save your company from downtime, and it can also save your company from being blackmailed with these DDoS with these DOS threats. So let's just go back. Then we have the SQL injection attack, and I've prepared some code for that because that's actually quite interesting. I have been, when I started as a developer many years ago, I created some ASP pages, and I did not know about the SQL injection, but I found out the hard way when it was just a site where. It was just a site where I showed. It was just a site that talked about games, so it was not that serious. It was okay that my site was down, but my site, the whole site actually got taken down by using SQL injection, and I will just show you exactly what actually happens right here. So the trick is that I have just started up a Postgres database right now, and I have created a table named spaceship right here. So this is my system that I have right here. So I have a table named spaceship. I have a field named captain. I have a field named fuel left, and I have an ID of 1. And then I've created a cool UI where I can actually type in I can actually change this name of the captain right here. Let's say that I want to say that it should be Susan. That should be the captain instead. Then I type that into my UI somewhere. And then this Susan will then be placed, inside this SQL right here. Update spaceship, set captain equal to Susan. Of course, where ID equals to 1, like this. So then I can run this code right here. And I have to remove this one right here. I'll comment it. So Control Enter right here. Okay, so now it said okay, that everything went fine. Let us try to run select this time. And now we can see that now I have my captain, the name of the captain is now Susan. But if I am exposed to SQL injection, if I have not written my code correctly, if I just insert the string Susan right there, that means that then someone else, let's say that that someone wants to write, if someone writes Bent, like this, and then they write something like this, because then they know that then they terminate this. Then they terminate this part right here, right? So now they've terminated that part of the string right there, and then they can write the comma, and then they know that still that they have one quote right here. So that means that then they can say fuel left if they know the fields also, but they can actually also ask for the fields. But in this situation right here, they will actually say fuel left equal to 2. So now they've just removed the fuel from my system, right? So that means that then I can do something like this. So let us say that I do this and insert that. So I type this into the name field in my UI, and then I see what actually happens when I put this in right here. What happened there? Suddenly I'm actually changing in a field that I'm not supposed to change, right? And this is called SQL injection. Everything went okay, and then we will go to the spaceship. So now I actually changed the fuel. I actually stole the fuel, right? So now the fuel is suddenly 2, and I was not supposed to be able to change the fuel left. I was only supposed to change the captain field from this UI right here. And of course, you can imagine more essential changes, because when you do this SQL injection, then you actually have access to the whole database. That's actually what you get. You get access to all of it, because you can run some commands. You can run embedded commands, so you actually get the look of your table. You can see a specification of the whole table. You can see a specification of other. You can see the list. You can list all other tables also. Sometimes it depends on the credentials that is actually being used to execute this part right here. Suddenly you have SQL injection, and that is not good. And that there are actually a lot of libraries that also, not a lot, but sometimes you actually. Sometimes actually very famous libraries actually have this error right here where there is a SQL injection, and then you have to update your dependencies. So it's not always that it's in your code; it can also be in your dependencies, and that's why it's very important to take it seriously when your plugins, when your Git plugins actually say that you have vulnerabilities, then you have to upgrade and bump your versions. There's also a cool tool named OWASP that can also help you check the dependency versions inside your code, and then you can bump your version so you don't have these vulnerabilities. And of course, SQL injection is just one example. But actually, what you do is you manipulate the SQL through a regular field, and then you can inject SQL that way, and then you can manipulate and do whatever you want to do inside the database. What about a career? There are a lot of career opportunities, and so there's higher pay than being a regular developer, but there's also a bit fewer tasks. But there are a lot of tasks, and it is a real career path, cybersecurity to take. And of course, you also get some higher responsibility usually, because let's say that you fail in your job, then it could have serious consequences for the whole company. And again, the future for cybersecurity, of course, is very important, and it will be more important in the future. And it is already very important now, because everything is digital, right? So we have everything is online, and everything is digital. Everything is made convenient through systems, so we can be more efficient. So it is something to take very seriously, and most countries, they actually have their own cybersecurity force, both for attacks and also for defense. And sometimes we hear about them in the news, but a lot of times we don't hear about them. Also because the attacked country is not interested in actually leaking out that now they were attacked here and there. But there are a lot of stories. If you can just Google it if you want to. If you want to read about the stories behind cyber attacks and the consequences about them. There's another thing that is sometimes security is also something physical, because if someone physically can actually get access to your company, then they are usually, if they're within the network, if they're on the local company network, then they usually have much more access than if they come from outside. So sometimes the security actually starts with preventing access to people to your local network, and that is done by not going around and flashing your security cards on the streets. That means that if you take a break and you walk around the building for a 2 o'clock break every day, or maybe after lunch break, then hide your security card, because it can, and do not post it. Or either I've seen someone that was so proud that they got a new job. Then they took a picture of the security card, and then they posted it on social media and said, "Yes, look, I landed this job right here." And that is really, really bad, because then you can just take that picture and then you can forge the security card much easier. So some of them, that's it. You should also be careful with the physical perimeter, and have a good security on who gets in. There's also this tailgating, where people they pretend that they actually are a part of the company, and then they ask you, "Hey, please hold the door for me," or something like that. And maybe they have a card that doesn't work, but it looks like it's genuine on them. And then maybe they've also done some research. So when you ask them, "Okay, but where do you belong?" and then they can actually mention a place in the company. Then it's important. If you hold the door for someone, then demand to see that their card actually works, and then maybe also follow them down to where they actually sit. Some people get very annoyed when you enforce this rule, but most people understand why. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. Bye.